Hi viewer, please watch, like, share and subscribe our YouTube channel. There is a lot of practice material available on our YouTube channel. Thank you.
Section 1. You will hear a conversation between the head librarian and a student who wants to do voluntary work in the children's section of the library. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. You will see that there is an example that has been done for you. On this occasion, only the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Good morning. You'd like to volunteer for the children's section, is that right?
Yes, I spoke to you on the phone yesterday.
That's right. Tessa, isn't it?
Yes, Tessa Bridges.
The applicant's name is Tessa Bridges. So Bridges has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Good morning. You'd like to volunteer for the children's section, is that right?
Yes, I spoke to you on the phone yesterday.
That's right. Tessa, isn't it?
Yes, Tessa Bridges.
Thank you for coming in today, Tessa. Before we discuss what a volunteer does in the library, I'll need to get some details from you.
No problem. What would you like to know?
Where do you live, Tessa?
I still live with my family in Northwood, 51 Matthew Drive.
Mathew? Matthew Drive?
Actually, there are 2 T's. Mattthew.
Oh, thank you. And the postcode for Northwood is?
Oh, I'm still confused about that. It used to be 2614, which of course I still remember, but the post office has recently changed it to 4126.
So, 4126. Now, you're a university student, aren't you?
Not exactly. I go to Northwood Polytechnic. I'm in my final year.
In your final year. So what are you studying? I mean your main subject.
Oh, I'm majoring in creative writing.
And are you enjoying that?
Very much so. I love it. When I graduate, I want to write children's books.
That's great. Now, I can see why you're keen to volunteer at the library. We're always grateful for the extra help, but I still have to ask you some more questions about your previous experience.
That's fine, but I haven't had a full-time paid job yet.
Not to worry. Part-time work or voluntary work gives you the experience most employers are looking for.
Well, to start with, when I was 16, I had a babysitting job.
And who did you work for?
Oh, just family friends.
How long did you babysit for family friends?
Oh, about 2 years, on and off.
After those 2 years were up, what did you do then?
Well, I was still working as a babysitter on the occasional evening and weekend when I became a peer tutor at school. I did that for 1 year, my last year at senior high.
And what does being a peer tutor involve?
Mostly, it means staying behind after school 1 or 2 afternoons a week to help fellow students in the subject that they're having difficulty with.
And what subject did you tutor in?
English, actually.
I see. Do you have any other experience?
I worked at the Ace Sports Academy as a tennis coach, but that was only for about 12 weeks over the summer before I enrolled at the Polytechnic.
So you're good at sports?
Not everything, just tennis.
And are you currently working?
Yes, well, Unpaid work, that is. I'm a volunteer at the local hospital, where I visit sick children who would otherwise not have any visitors.
Well, it certainly seems as if you like children.
Yes, I do.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now, listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Well, Tessa, what I need to know now is what your schedule is like, so that we can fit you into the roster here. Can I assume that you're not able to work Monday to Friday during office hours?
Right. I'm very busy with lectures, workshops, and assignments during the week.
How about weeknights? Say 5 to 7 in the evening. That's a very busy time in the children's section.
Well, I couldn't commit to more than 3 evenings a week, and even then it would depend on my schedule.
Yes, I understand. If possible, we could make arrangements a week in advance. Would that help?
Yes, that might work.
Are weekends okay?
Well, Sundays are out. Actually, only every other Sunday, because that's when I'm usually needed at the hospital. But I'm free on Saturday afternoons.
All right. We could roster you for the odd weekend then. What about school holidays?
Definitely, no problem whatsoever. I don't have any other commitments during the holidays.
That's good to hear. We have droves of children here in the holidays, as you can imagine. Thank you. Well, Tessa, we'll send you a letter of appointment in the mail, and we look forward to having you join us as a volunteer.
Thanks very much.
Now, as for your duties...
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now, turn to section 2.
Section 2. You will hear a radio interview about an upcoming fair. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. As you listen to the first part of the talk, answer questions 11 to 14.
Good afternoon and welcome to City Hour, the radio show that brings you all the latest information about events in and around our city. Today we have with us Cynthia Smith, who is heading up this year's City Fair. Cynthia, would you start by giving us some of the basic information about the fair? Where will it take place this year?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I know most people will be expecting the fair to be at the fairgrounds as usual, but we've had to change the location this year due to some construction work. You know, they're building the new high school in that neighbourhood, and they've been using the fairgrounds as a place to store construction materials. So we've moved the fair to City Park, which I think is a wonderful location.
Yes, that will be a great place for the fair. I understand that the fair begins on Friday morning with a special opening event.
Actually, it won't begin until that evening, but you're right about the special event. Traditionally, we've begun with a parade, but this year our opening event will be a special dance performance. And the most exciting part is that the mayor will be one of the dancers.
The mayor is a woman of many talents. Cynthia, could you tell our listeners about the price of admission? What will it cost to attend the fair?
We're trying to keep the price down as much as possible. A 3-day pass is just $25, or you can buy a Saturday or Sunday only pass for $15. The opening event on Friday, the dance performance, doesn't cost anything to attend, and we're hoping a lot of people will come to watch that.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
Could you tell us about some of the events planned for Saturday and Sunday, the main days of the fair?
We have a lot of exciting things planned. There are a number of events especially for children, including a clown show on Saturday afternoon. On Saturday evening, we've got an event that can be enjoyed by the whole family, a concert by the lake.
I'm sure that will be a popular event. Is there anything special planned for Sunday?
Yes, a really fun event, and we hope a lot of people will participate. There'll be a singing contest in the afternoon. It's open to everyone at no charge. It doesn't matter whether you're an experienced singer or not. If you've always dreamed of singing on stage, this is your chance.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
I think it will be. I'd also like your listeners to know that besides the special events I've mentioned, there will be things taking place all weekend. For example, at the food court, international food will be served. You'll be able to sample dishes from all around the world. There will also be special games for children at different locations around the fair.
Will there be things people can buy, souvenirs, anything like that?
We have a large area set aside where there'll be crafts for sale. This will be an opportunity to buy many lovely handmade things and to get to know some of our local artists and craftspeople as well.
It sounds like there will be a lot of fun for everyone at this year's fair. Thank you for sharing the information with us, Cynthia.
Thank you for inviting me.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3.
Section 3. You will hear a conversation between two students who are studying to be teachers, talking about science experiments. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Mike. So what happened to you last week?
Oh, I was sick with the flu. What's this I hear about a big assignment we've got to do?
Oh, well, basically, we've got to find 2 science experiments to do with a group of 8-year-old children at the local primary school. And we've got to complete it by the end of the week.
Oh, that sounds like hard work. Where are we supposed to get the ideas for these experiments from?
Well, I managed to get hold of 2 books from the library.
Oh, well done.
How about if we take a look at the experiments in this book first and see if anything looks suitable? I can make notes as we go about equipment and the purpose of the experiments.
OK. let's see. The first experiment is called Make Your Own Hovercraft, which sounds very ambitious. Mind you, you only need 20 balloons and a table. You don't need any special engines or anything like that.
What do you do with it all?
You blow up the balloons and you balance the table on them, upside down, of course, and the kids get to ride around on it. You know, the other kids sort of push them around the room. The main purpose is to show how hovercrafts work and how things hover around on just a cushion of air.
OK, that doesn't sound too bad.
OK, ready for number 2?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this one is called Unusual Measures of Lengths, and you basically use lots of paper clips. The kids go around the class measuring things, you know, how long the desk is and that sort of thing, and then they all compare their answers. And basically, because not all paper clips are the same length, they should come up with some strange answers. It's supposed to demonstrate the importance of having fixed units of measurement.
Yeah, that's not bad.
OK, now for number 3, you need rock salt or copper sulfate.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Well, just put down the rock salt then. Apart from that, you only need a jar of water. And basically you dissolve lots of salt into the water and watch the crystals form. So it basically teaches the kids about growing crystals.
Yeah, I suppose it would be nice to grow something. Let's move on and have a look at number 4.
OK, this one is called Spinning Colour Wheel. It looks like you get some cardboard and draw a circle on it, divide it into 6 equal segments and colour each one in using different colours. Then you thread a piece of string through the middle.
So we'd need some string as well.
Yes, sorry, and you spin the wheel around, and if you can get it spinning fast enough, hopefully the colours all merge and show up as white.
Oh, I didn't know that. What's the principle behind it?
Well, it's pretty elementary physics, really. It teaches them about how white light, or ordinary light, is made up.
Well, that doesn't sound too bad. Now, there's only one more left in this book, isn't there? What does that one say?
Well, it's another one where they'd get to make something.
Sounds very interesting.
You need quite a lot of equipment, actually. A hand drill, an old record, a pin or needle, some paper, and a bolt.
Go on. What do they have to do?
Well, they basically make a record player. The main idea is to teach them about recording sound, but hopefully they'd also see that you need motion and an amplifier to make the sound heard.
OK, well, it does sound interesting. Shall we go through all of those again and decide if any of them are going to be suitable?
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Right. Number 1. I thought this one sounded nice. There'd be lots of activity, and it doesn't need too much in the way of equipment.
Yes, that's true, but don't you think it's a bit risky to get a group of 8-year-olds pushing each other around a classroom like that? Well, someone could get hurt. No, I don't like the sound of that one at all.
Maybe you're right.
What about number 2, with the paper clips? It sounds tame enough.
Yes, a bit too tame, if you ask me. I think it needs to be something a bit more active and interesting than that, don't you?
Yes, I suppose you're right. We won't get a very good mark if the children don't actually enjoy the experiments. And I suppose we could turn them off science for good. Well, what about the next one, number 3?
Now, I quite like the idea of this one.
Yes, so do I. But I seem to remember when we did it at high school, we had to wait up to a fortnight before we saw any halfway decent results.
Oh, yes. Well, that won't be any good then. We'll only see the kids for 1 or 2 hours at the most.
Yes, and we have to do the experiments and write up our results within a week. So that one won't do at all.
OK, well, what did you think of number 4?
I like the idea of it, but do you think it will be a bit elementary for them?
Well, they are only 8, you know.
I know, but you know what I mean. Don't you think the activity itself is a bit babyish?
Maybe you're right.
They might have fun, but I mean, cutting out a circle and colouring it in.
OK. Well, what about number 5?
I thought this one sounded a bit too good to be true. Great equipment.
Yeah.
But don't you think it's a bit ambitious for this age group? I mean, I don't want to start off something and then have to abandon it if they just can't cope with it. I could see us ending up doing just about all of the work for them.
I guess you're right. Oh well, maybe we could store that idea away for later.
Yep. Let's hope this second book has something better.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4.
Section 4. You will hear a lecture about success in business systems. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. In the last few lectures, I've been dealing with business finance, but now I'm going to move on to business systems. And in today's lecture, I'm going to talk about what can go wrong when businesses try to copy their own best practices. Once a business has successfully introduced a new process, managing a branch bank, say, or selling a new product, the parent organization naturally wants to repeat that success and capture it, if possible, on a bigger scale. The goal then is to utilize existing knowledge and not to generate new knowledge. It's a less glamorous activity than pure innovation, but it actually happens more often, as a matter of fact. However, surprisingly, getting things right the second time is not necessarily any simpler than it was the first time. Now, there's been a lot of research into how companies can repeat their previous successes, and it certainly hasn't been confined to the United States. It seems that most large industries are trying to repeat their own successes and manage the knowledge they've acquired. But even so, it has been shown that the overwhelming majority of attempts fail. A host of studies confirm this, covering a wide range of business settings: branch banks, retail stores, real estate agencies, factories, call centers, to name but a few. So why do so few managers get things right the second or third time? Let's consider one reason for failure: placing too much trust in the people who are running the successful operation, the experts, shall we say. Managers who want to apply existing knowledge typically start off by going to an expert. such as the person who designed and is running a successful department store, and picking their brains. Now, this approach can be used if you want to gain a rough understanding of a particular system, or understand smaller, isolated problems. The trouble is, even the expert doesn't fully grasp the whole thing, because when it comes to complex systems, the individual components of the process are interwoven with one another. The expert never has complete access to the necessary information. And the situation's complicated even further by the fact that experts are usually not aware of their own ignorance. The ignorance can take various forms. For instance, a lot of details of the system are invisible to managers. Some may be difficult to describe, learned on the job, and well known by workers, perhaps, but impossible to describe in a way that's helpful. And there are some things that people know or do that they're not even aware of. Now, let's consider two types of mistake that can occur when a manager actually starts to set up a duplicate system to replicate a successful process. Firstly, perhaps he forgets that he was just trying to copy another process and starts trying to improve on it. Another mistake is trying to use the best parts of various different systems in the hope of creating the perfect combination. Unfortunately, attempts like these usually turn out to be misguided and lead to problems. Why? Well, for various reasons. Perhaps there weren't really any advantages after all, because the information wasn't accurate. Or perhaps the business settings weren't really comparable. More typically, the advantages are real enough, but there are also disadvantages that have been overlooked. For example, the modifications might compromise safety in some way. So, what's the solution? Well, I don't intend to suggest that it's easy to get things right the second time. It's not. But the underlying problem has more to do with attitudes than the actual difficulty of the task, and there are ways of getting it right. These involve adjusting attitudes, first of all. Being more realistic and cautious, really. Secondly, they involve exerting strict controls on the organizational and operational systems. And this, in turn, means copying the original as closely as possible. Not merely duplicating the physical characteristics of the factory, but also duplicating the skills that the original employees had. Reliance on a template like this offers the huge advantage of built-in consistency.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.